Everybody thinks early retirement requires something dramatic. Millions in the bank, a stack of rental properties, rich parents, or some once-in-a-lifetime investment you magically timed perfectly. But what if I told you that your entire escape plan could start with just one house? Not 10, not 20, not some HGTV empire, one. And no, this isn't about buying a mansion or chasing the next hot neighborhood. It's about making one intentional move that quietly snowballs into financial freedom while everyone else is still debating crypto versus index funds. If you're exhausted by the work until 70 retirement blueprint, stay with me, because this is where things get interesting. While most people are obsessing over stock charts and side hustles, there's a boring little real estate approach that has created more financially independent people than almost anything else. And the funny part? It's so simple that most people ignore it. They assume complicated equals powerful. It doesn't. The strategy revolves around owning one carefully chosen property and using it in a way most homeowners never even consider. This isn't about flexing a luxury address. It's not about flipping houses every year, and it's definitely not about becoming the landlord of 15 angry tenants. It's about understanding how a single property can become a long-term wealth engine. Picture this. You buy one solid house in your 20s or 30s. Fast forward 15 or 20 years. That same property has quietly built enough income streams to cover your basic living costs. Now you're in your 40s or 50s, and work becomes optional. No lottery ticket, no inheritance, just one smart decision made early. Sounds dramatic. It's not. It's math. And it works for regular people with normal incomes. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need insider knowledge. You just need to understand leverage and patience. The foundation of this approach starts with something called house hacking. But we're not stopping there. Traditional house hacking usually means buying a duplex, living in one unit, renting the other. Solid strategy. But you can apply similar principles to a regular single-family home and stretch it much further over time. Here's where most people mess up. They look at real estate purely through monthly cash flow. Will this make me $300 a month? If not, they move on. Cash flow matters, but in this strategy, it's not the star of the show. The real magic happens when you combine appreciation, mortgage paydown, strategic improvements, and controlled leverage, all working at the same time. Let's talk about appreciation, but not the wishful thinking kind. Strategic appreciation means buying where growth is likely, near expanding job hubs, near new infrastructure, in areas where supply can't explode overnight. You're stacking probability in your favor. Now, here's the twist. Most people buy a home, live in it for 30 years, and celebrate once it's paid off. They think, no more mortgage, I won. But what they've actually done is lock hundreds of thousands of dollars inside a property that isn't producing anything. It's like stuffing cash into the walls and calling it security. Instead of treating equity like a trophy, you treat it like fuel. You build it intentionally, then you deploy it. Step 1, buy right. Not the fanciest house you can qualify for. Not the emotional purchase with granite, everything. You want strong rental demand. Middle-class neighborhoods are often the sweet spot, places where professionals want to live but aren't ready to buy. You also want value-add potential, not a 6-month renovation nightmare. Just small upgrades that increase rent and value. Better fixtures, improved curb appeal, smarter layout use, and most importantly, you buy patiently. The difference between overpaying and negotiating well compounds for decades. Once you own it, you don't just sit back and hope. You optimize it. Adjust rent strategically. Improve the property wisely. Manage it like an asset, not just a place you sleep. As years pass, two things happen at the same time. The home value climbs, your loan balance drops. That growing gap between those two numbers, that's equity. And this is where early retirement actually accelerates. Instead of letting that equity collect dust, you access part of it through refinancing or a home equity line responsibly. Not for cars, not for vacations, for income-producing assets. Maybe that's dividend stocks. Maybe it's bonds. Maybe it's another property. Maybe it's a business. The asset type matters less than the principal. Your house funds additional income streams. And as those streams grow, something powerful happens. Your passive income starts catching up to your expenses. Eventually, it passes them. That's financial independence. Not a giant number in an account, but enough recurring income to live without needing a paycheck. Some people reach that point in 12 years, some in 20. Either way, it beats grinding for 4 decades and hoping your 401k behaves. And here's what I love most about this strategy. You're not living like a monk. You're living in a solid home. Building wealth, improving your life now and later, simultaneously. Psychologically, that changes everything. When you know your home is building wealth, instead of draining it, you make better decisions. You take smarter career risks. You negotiate harder. You explore opportunities you'd never consider if you were stuck paycheck to paycheck. And unlike the buy 20 rentals crowd, you're not drowning in tenant calls. Managing one optimized property is manageable. Managing 12 is a second job. Let's walk through a simple example. You buy a house at 30 for $420,000. You put 20% down, your mortgage sits around $336,000. 10 years later, the house appreciates modestly, say 4% annually. Now, it's worth roughly $620,000. Meanwhile, your mortgage balance drops to about $270,000. That's serious equity. Most people would rush to pay it off completely. Feels safe, feels responsible, feels very grandma approved. But instead, you access $200,000 of that equity and invest it at a conservative 7%. That's roughly $14,000 per year in passive income from equity that was previously doing nothing. 5 years later, you repeat the process carefully. The compounding effect speeds up. By 50, that one decision you made at 30 could be generating a meaningful portion of your annual expenses. And the beauty, it adapts to your life. Single, rent rooms, married with kids, choose a strong school district with long-term value. Closer to retirement, buy somewhere you'd happily live long-term. The framework stays the same. Now, yes, real estate has risks. Markets cool, rates rise, neighborhoods shift. But owning one well-chosen property gives you flexibility. You can adjust, deleverage, pivot. Someone overextended on 10 properties? Not so much. There's also something deeply calming about knowing you own a tangible asset. Even if the stock market vanished tomorrow, people would still need housing. Try living inside a brokerage statement. Over 20 years, this strategy can create staggering results compared to traditional retirement savings alone. Not because it's flashy, because it uses leverage, appreciation, and time together. And here's the part nobody talks about. This isn't really about real estate. It's about mindset. Wealthy people don't let assets sit idle. They make them work. Equity trapped in a house is wasted potential. Equity strategically used becomes freedom. Retiring early isn't about hoarding millions. It's about creating enough reliable income to fund your lifestyle. Options instead of obligations. Freedom instead of dependence. In 2025, yes, housing is expensive. Rates are higher than they were a few years ago. Entry feels tougher. But the core math hasn't changed. If anything, building equity in a higher value asset can create even bigger long-term leverage. You might need patience, creativity, flexibility on location. But one house can still be enough. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Find the right property. Let time and strategy do the heavy lifting. Because sometimes financial freedom doesn't start with a portfolio, it starts with one smart house.